are Ramblings from the Directors, and today we have our normal peeps. We got Mr. Williams, and we got Finn,
Hello.
and we also have a very special guest today. I don't know if you know him. He doesn't really do much at Lincoln. He doesn't really do much anywhere. He's just kind of like here. He seems pretty cool, so we just thought, maybe we could have him on here. Our special guest, Marquis.
Hey!
I was doing that drum roll for a long time. I didn't think you were gonna go on a ramble. Shit, that's the name of the show.
It's the name of the podcast.
Yikes.
Marquis, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Marquis. I am 17.
Hello, Marquis.
I'll be a senior. Hi. I'll be a senior next year. I guess that's about it. I like to sing and dance and act and.
Woo!
That works great. This podcast is about theater and singing and acting and dancing. So,
Heck yeah, it
speaking
is.
of which, too, those that are watching, or if you're listening, one of our few that are listening, just a reminder that Ramblings from the Director is available both on YouTube for the video podcast, but we also put this up on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Spotify. So if you want to listen, just listen to us and not see these beautiful mugs. You can do that on those channels. Also, keep in mind, too, for our audio podcast, we also do a special Big Sister segment that is not in the video podcast. So if you want that exclusive content, gotta listen on any of those podcast listening apps.
It'll also not be safe for work.
Oh, wait, what?
I mean, we're gonna try to keep it safe for work.
Yeah. Wait.
We're gonna try.
No, we're not.
So, Marquis, you have had a very illustrious career in high school, both at Lincoln and not at Lincoln. I'd be remiss to not start us off with kind of you took a special role this year. You kind of stepped up a little bit in terms of what your tasks were. So you want to kind of talk about kind of what that step up was this year, in particular with Forever Plaid.
So for Forever Plaid, I had intended to audition for the show. But then the show dates, opening night, I was scheduled to leave for a cruise that my mom booked, like a year and a half in advance. So it was really hard to get out of that. And so I tried really hard to change the Forever Plaid date, see if we could, change any of that, but we couldn't, and that's fine. And so I just, and I ended up just choreographing the show. And, we did 3 shows, or we were going to do 3 shows this year at Lincoln, and Forever Plaid was our winter show. And we haven't done a winter show before, at least not while I've been at Lincoln. And it's difficult because it's right in the middle of everything going on, It's not like in the beginning of the year when nothing's really started yet, so it's not a huge amount of conflicts and stuff like that. But when you're rehearsing in the middle of November and December, it's hard because there's so many other things going on, both with the actors in the show and the production team. So Mr. Williams, he wasn't around a lot. I don't know.
So we're gonna get to that. I want to backtrack a little bit though first and fill in some blanks.
Okay.
So, because we're gonna get real here.
Calling you out.
I'm not gonna say no. He has every right to, and we'll get to that. But
Okay.
So I remember distinctly the idea of doing a third show was okay, if we're gonna do a third show, it has to be small. There's no way we're gonna be able to do something that's big for a third show. So I was racking through my brain. And I'd always wanted to do Forever Plaid. I think it's a brilliant musical. It's 4 people, so it's incredibly small. So I sent out some feelers over the summer because I knew I had at least four guys that could sing. So I sent out feelers to 4 guys, and they know who they are, like they'll remain nameless. And I was like, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking. Are you all on board? And they were like, yeah, sure. And kind of this idea of, I mean, we'll have auditions, we'll see, someone might surprise us, but kind of going in, whenever you cast a show or do a show, you kind of know that you have the people. And I knew I had the 4. And then Marquis comes and says, oh, by the way, when's the show date? So I told him early December, and he's like, what? I have a cruise. Marquis, I specifically, you were one of the 4. I
was one of the 4. That's right.
So we scrambled, and you tried really hard to change the date, and it wouldn't work. There's no other day.
Well, that's up for discussion, but yeah.
I didn't know that I could bend time, Marquis. I'm sorry.
We're not gonna get into it. We're not gonna get into it.
It's in the past. It's in the past.
Marquis, that's the whole point of a podcast, is talking through things.
This is the talk that you do not want to have right now in the studios, okay?
Do it. We need content. We need content.
We need juicy stuff, Marquis. We need to increase our viewership.
Go.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I just feel like I just remember one weekend, and I can't remember what the weekend was because I had pitched the idea to you, and you said there was like, I don't remember what weekend it was, but it was some weekend that like nothing was going on, or like nothing like that like we couldn't work around or whatever. And I was like, oh my god, this would be perfect. Then you were just like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. So
but you have to take into account too, like that space is busy that time of year. I mean, there's choir concerts, there's band concerts, there's orchestra concerts, there's all these other things. It's not just a matter of, oh, there's nothing in the space this weekend. It's a matter of, do we have time to build our sets? Do we have time to, do we have time to clear out for all the other practices and things like that? Scheduling is one of the most stressful parts of this job. Try and figure out, because it's a shared space. I mean, we have all 4 of us on top of other people wanting to use that space too for other reasons. So,
right.
I
have a question. I've heard whispers, is it true that the lanterns that you guys had when you first come out, is it true that you guys didn't actually like have those until the day before the first show?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. The best part is, so this is typical Williams, and sorry, Marquis, I'll shut up here in a minute. I had them for a while and couldn't find them until 2-3 days before, because they were the little LED candle lights. So there's no flame, because we can't have flame. So it's just no. Yeah.
I think a candle would be fine. Maybe just like school stuff. But I think if they were just holding a candle, I think that would be fine.
See, but we had to get light from it. So the rest of the stage was pitch black. So we had to get some light source from it.
It's called fire.
Well, you can't have an open flame. That's the thing.
Okay. I'm going to purposely put an open flame in my HSSA and not tell anyone. And, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to do that.
Don't do that.
Edit that part out. They're not going to let us come. Edit that part out.
Keep it in.
No, they're not going to let us come.
So, Marquis, okay. Now we've got that kind of situation cleared up. So there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of, I think, biting off more than we could chew. So I'll kind of fill in some pieces and then let you take over, just because this is the real.
Yeah.
So I this was around the time I was burnt out from Clue. I was 100% burnt out from Clue, just because that turned into a huge beast and a huge monster. So then I made the assumption. Yeah, I made the assumption then that, which was dumb on my part, that people were working on music stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. And that was not the case necessarily. Like, it wasn't what I was thinking it was. But so this was also the time too where I had my daughter for Thanksgiving, so that cut in a big amount. But then also too, something like a lot of people don't know. So spoiler alert. This was about the time where I found out that I wasn't. It was the start of the whole process of me not being sure I was going to be able to teach, because of the whole stuff that went down second semester. Was around this time. Yeah. So those emails were starting to come out of like, hey. So I was in a bad headspace throughout.
In one of these episodes, I really want you to clear all that up, because I'm still kind of confused by it. Not this one.
I would be happy to.
Yeah, but like in the future, let's have an episode where it's just the three of us and we just talk about that.
Yeah.
But not this episode, because this episode of Ramblings from the Directors has our very special guest, Marquis Bundy, talking about some...
That was so smooth. That was the smoothest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'm saying, call me Segway King. Get us back on track.
Anyway, back to Marquis.
So talk to me about like so I'm obviously out, disconnected. So it kind of puts you 4 or 5 in this really awkward place. Kind of what happened? What was that like?
So the show, it's 4 people. They sing all the songs, and it's mainly songs. Like there's some dialogue in between, but it's like the bulk of the show is just music, right? And so you have the singing aspect of it, which they were doing on their own, and then there was also the choreography aspect, which we spent a lot of time doing, because that was just what most of the show was just like songs, and half of songs is choreography. So I was there a lot, and it sucked. The thing that sucked the most was that I could be there for every single rehearsal. I just couldn't be there for anything past opening night. I left. I was able to see the show opening night, but I left that night for Texas at like 11 o'clock at night. So so that sucked. I was able to be there for everything, but then I couldn't be there for the actual performances. So that sucked. But I was just there a lot, and we got to a point where like all the songs had been learned, and they were like still working on memorizing the music, and they were like, well, can we run the show? And I was like, yeah, you can run the show. I mean, it's just running the numbers top to bottom, basically. So yeah, I mean, that's fine. And so, and then River said, can you give us notes? And I was like, on the choreography? Sure, yeah. I can give you notes on the choreography. And he's like, no, like for everything. And I was like, I don't know how to do that, but okay.
Which is funny to me. It's funny to me because you're also one of the most opinionated people I know.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how to give notes. You do it all the time anyway.
You do, but you just don't write it down. Like.
I guess it's just like I guess I just like see it differently when I'm just like giving my opinion. I don't know. It's just it's different. You know what I'm saying? So.
No, I don't. It's the same thing.
I don't know. It's different. I don't know why. Cause I've always just like received notes like when it comes to like shows and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I've never like been in the position where I watch something and I'm like, okay, here's what you can do better. But like when I'm just giving my opinion, I don't know. I guess it's like literally the same thing, but I just never saw it that way. You know.
It's this balance of like when I'm giving an opinion, they might take it, they might not. But when I'm giving guided feedback, then it becomes this piece of these are ideas that they should incorporate. So maybe the pressure or the level of stakes of the two, maybe. I don't know. I think they're the same. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's fine. I'm more comfortable doing it now because I had a little more experience when we did 21 Trump Street for HSSA. There was a lot of well, I'm getting sidetracked. I can talk about that later. But no, so then I just like gave notes. I watched them do it, and I was like writing stuff down, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then I was like, okay, let's run these few things. And a lot of the things we were running again weren't even like song stuff. It was just like blocking things that like, cause I mean, for like the most part, we had just like really discussed blocking, but we never like actually gotten on our feet and done it. And so it was like trying to figure out what the words in the paper meant in terms of like your body movements. And so there was a lot of confusion a lot of the time. So I was like, okay, well, why don't you try doing this at this time instead of that, and like, you know, clear up some traffic, you know. And so we ended up doing that a lot. And then we came in all the time. I don't remember, like, I remember being at that school for like such a long time. Like we were there on the weekends, we were there during Thanksgiving break, we were there like after school every night, because like Clue ended in the beginning of October, or at the end of October, and Forever Plaid opened in the beginning of December. So we really only had that month. And in that month, we also had show choir rehearsals on Mondays, and we also had there was something else going on. I don't remember what it was. Oh, Thanksgiving break. You know, we had you know, just stuff going on, and
Right.
the original plan was to work on Forever Plaid and Clue simultaneously.
And that did not happen.
That didn't happen. So
I
we
think
ended up doing just a lot.
I think that was our biggest downfall looking back, was we kept saying, oh, we have time. It's a small show. There's not a lot we need to do. We have time. And then when it came to that point of, oh crap, we opened the show in 3 weeks and have some major deficiencies of things we have gone over and things we haven't, that's when that kind of over the top pressure filled rehearsal process came into.
It got to the point where like we were in the stage where we needed to start just making decisions about things and just sticking with them. And like a lot of the time Williams just wasn't there. And so I was just like, okay, well, let's just do this, you know, like this is the plan, and let's do it, you know. And so I just sort of like I don't know how to like describe it, but I was just sort of like an assistant director.
You were thrust into that position.
Yeah.
I mean, just because, like I said, especially during Thanksgiving break, I had my daughter, and I don't get to see her that often. So it was kind of one of those things where it's, y'all, I would love to be here, but I can't. I mean, I can't sacrifice family. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So forgive me for being selfish.
I wanna say I'm the only person here in this chat that had nothing to do with Forever Plaid. I had nothing to do with it. But I saw it opening night. I saw it with Samantha, and since I have that kind of backwards just audience member point of view, being completely unbiased, you guys did really good. I really enjoyed that show. Yeah. I had a really good time. I sat in like the front row. I was with some people. We all watched it. We all had a grand old time. You guys got me into the show. I had to speak. That was scary, but I did it.
Right.
I know. Thanks. I was waiting for my applause, but anywho, besides that, I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was really good. I thought everything was very well done, and it was funny. It was really funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like you go to see a high school play and it's like, oh, everyone else is laughing, so I'm gonna laugh too. It was really funny.
Yeah.
I remember during intermission, me and everyone else I was sitting with, we were repeating the jokes to each other, and we were still laughing.
Yeah.
The one thing I was waiting for was when you guys were doing the plungers. I really wanted one of them to get stuck to the ground. I thought that would have been great.
We lost one night.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we lost one.
Proportion.
Yeah. Which
Those
it
plungers,
took off.
so the plungers were supposed to be like so much bigger than they actually were. And so the ones that we like were practicing with, the ones that ended up being in the show, were just like placeholders pretty much, because they're supposed to be these ginormous plungers. Not ginormous, but like bigger than what they were, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we just never got them changed out. So they're these like 5.5, almost 6 foot long, like plunger like holders with these like small, like normal bathroom sized plunger heads. And they just look so like disproportionate. And I think it just adds to the comedy of the show.
It's our
It
MO.
definitely did. It definitely did. It added to it a lot. But yeah, it was a great show. I really enjoyed myself. I wish I could have gone back and seen it other days, but I was busy and I couldn't before you guys ended. So I was very disappointed by that. But
yeah,
I really enjoyed the show.
Finn, what do you think of the
Good
projections?
job to you guys.
Finn,
What did I think of the projections? I thought the projections, me being a very visual person, when it comes to that kind of stuff, there was things I would have done differently. But I think with the resources and the time that you guys had, I think you did it to the best of your ability. And it wasn't jarring. It fit. It worked really well for what you were given. But I feel like if you had like the time we had for Clue, they weren't bad. But I'm just saying they could have been better if you had had more time. But they weren't like jarring. Like there wasn't like a point where I was like watching River sing his heart out, and then I was like, "Well, wait, what is that?"
Finn, I'm gonna let you finish, but I have a follow-up question too. Why do you hate Caitlin? Caitlin was projections. Wow.
Why do I hate Caitlin? You said you wanted to keep this at 45 minutes, and if you want me to list off why I hate Caitlin, it'll take much longer than that.
Let me just sip some tea.
I'm gonna just start crying again, but like for real this time, like not. But no, I remember being like, when I first heard that we were doing Forever Plaid, my first reaction was, "No girls, huh? That's unfair."
I want to do reverse sex Forever Plaid with all female cast.
I don't know why people keep joking, because it should be a thing. But yeah, when I first heard that we were doing Forever Plaid, I was like, oh, are there any girls in it? And then I looked and I was like, no, it's all boys. It's a barbershop. And I was like, that's great. That's fun. And I was like, oh, and then I figured, like, I heard about like who was planning on doing it, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be really cool, because like I'm like pretty good friends with everyone. And then the whole chaos with like, what we talked about with like Marquis and such.
Yeah.
I remember watching rehearsals before like projections were set up, because that's what I did, in case y'all didn't catch that. I remember watching the show at rehearsals, and I was thinking, this is a really good show, and my friends are so freaking talented. Like, to talk, like, just, oh my god, I was so proud of my friends. Like, at first there was a part of me that's like, dang, I wish I could be doing that, but then also I was like, they're so talented, and they're like really killing it, and just they're so talented. And like the choreo, for Forever Plaid was so like good. Like I was like, Marquis, yes! Oh, yes, for real. I was like, Marquis, choreo.
Makes me feel good.
Like, period. It was so good. And like I said, like the talent with everybody. And I remember the chaos of figuring out that Marquis couldn't do the show. And I was sitting there like, oh no. And then we found somebody, and they did amazing. Like, they filled it perfectly. And the show was just really good. And I just, it was so fun. Like, I know I wasn't even in it, but it was such a fun show. And it was cool that I even got to do projections. And like, I'm just, oh my gosh, I was so proud of my friends. It was so good.
So you're listening to Ramblings from the Director with our special guest, Marquis Bundy. We're going to pay some bills, pay some bills here.
Pay some bills.
That's bad when you can't speak and you're listening to a podcast. So we're going to go pay some bills while I learn how to speak. We'll be right back with Ramblings from the Director in just a moment. Are you looking to make your own podcast? Wondering what service you could use to make your podcast super easy and super efficient? Well, let me tell you, try the Anchor app. You haven't heard about Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First off, it's free, which is my favorite F word. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your own podcast from your phone or your computer. It's that easy. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, and even the Anchor app itself. The cool thing is, you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I mean, you could have one person listening, and you'd still be making that green. So if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you're going to the Anchor app. You can get it on Google Play or in the Apple Store, or you can get it on the internet. Download it now. It's a great tool. And we're back. We're back with our guest, Marquis Bundy. We're talking Forever Plaid. We're talking theater. We're talking all things theater related.
That was great.
I know. That commercial was fantastic.
That was good.
So Marquis.
Oh, you learned how to speak in the commercial.
I did.
Oh,
It's because I've been working with the Anchor app. The Anchor app is great. It helps me learn how to speak, create my own podcast, all the things.
Stop being smooth. Stop doing it. Stop segueing so well.
Finn, there's a reason I'm a verbal assassin. I'm not actually.
You couldn't say a word 2 seconds ago. What do you mean?
Yeah, and then I figured out how to speak on the Anchor app, which promotes this podcast, Ramblings from a Director, on many different sources.
So Marquis. Okay, so Marquis, how is your stuff with local theater?
We'll work on your segues, Finn. So Marquis, going back though, before we dive into your community theater work, would you say that Plaid was the first kind of instance in which you really got invested into this directorial side of things? Or has that always been an interest of yours?
I mean, I can't say that I've never considered it before Forever Plaid. I just never really saw myself doing it, so I never really pursued that, you know. After a certain point in time, you just start dwindling down what you really want to do. And before Forever Plaid, I was like, okay, I really just want to perform, you know. I've done behind the scenes stuff. I've done crew and stuff like that. And I was like, you know, my heart is in performing, and I was really upset that I couldn't be in Forever Plaid, but I still wanted to be as involved as I could have. And so I think the choreography and the assistant directing was the most I could do, given the circumstances that I was in. And so it was a lot of fun, and I would definitely love to do it again. I did it some more, a little, with 21 Trump Street. We did 21 Trump Street for Large Group by HSSA in mid-January. And so we had already done 21 Trump Street last year for Senior One Act. Nixon directed it, Nixon Benitez.
Shout out Nixon!
And he did an amazing job, and it's a fantastic show. It's about 13 and a half minutes long. So it wasn't super long, but it's completely sung through. So it's all music again. And so none of us were seniors when we did the senior directed one act. And so we were like, what if we did this for IHSSA next year? And so we were all on board to do it. Everyone was on board to come back. So, but the issue was, we have 10 minutes, all right? You have 10 minutes for our entry, and the whole show is 13 minutes, 13 and a half minutes. So we had to cut different parts of the show to fit it under that 10-minute, really 9 minutes and 45 seconds, because we have to have an introduction in the beginning. So we wanted to have some wiggle room, that way we weren't sweating throughout the whole time, even though that didn't stop us from being worried about it, because we were all still worried about it. But anyway, we had an introduction at the beginning that took it was 7 seconds, and our actual start to finish with the show was like 9 minutes and like 30 something seconds. And so I cut all the music using Audacity. It was really, really difficult at first because I had never done anything with like styling music or like cutting music. I just know what I wanted it to sound like. And I was just gonna keep playing with it until I got it to sound like what I sounded. I got it till I got it to sound like what I wanted it to sound like. And so I as I was doing Forever Plaid, I was like trying to like also work on 21 Jump Street music, and it was really difficult because we were always in rehearsal, so I didn't really have a lot of time. I also didn't really know how to do it, so that also slowed me down. But then once Forever Plaid was done, and I got back from my vacation, I went straight to work on it, and I was like, okay, I don't really have time to be like messing or I was also gonna okay, we'll get to that later. But I was like, I don't have time to be not do this, right? So I have to do it. And so I just spent like hours and hours working on it, and I had to record it from my lap. I had to record it from my phone onto my laptop, and then from my laptop I had to put it onto Audacity, and then I had to cut and paste and edit so that it all like still made sense. Like the story was still there. It just took out the like redundant parts, you know? Like if a song has 3 choruses that are the exact same and there's no lyric changes and doesn't do anything for the story, I would take out one of the choruses, for example, you know? Stuff like that. And so and making all those changes, it sort of forced me to take on a more of a directorial, I guess, position, because the rest of the cast was used to the full version, but making those changes, we had to like change blocking and change when things happened and stuff like that. And so with that happened, and I think it ended up being pretty good for what it was, But so I mean, it's fun, and I would love to do it again. There's not a lot of opportunities yet, so I don't know. I guess we'll see.
We'll have to create something. I think that speaks to your work ethic too, though. Just the amount of work you do. I always laugh, and I'll never forget this. The piece of you're the only person I've ever talked to that has been upset about going on a cruise. I remember distinctly. I distinctly remember you telling me, be like, oh, I have to go on this cruise. And I remember saying to myself, it's a cruise, Marquis. Enjoy yourself. It's fun.
I would be really sad. I would be really sad if I had to go on a cruise.
Yeah,
it just seems
like
not a
the issue wasn't that I was going on a cruise. The issue was I was going on a cruise at the wrong time. So
well, my thing is I just wouldn't want to go on a cruise. It just doesn't seem like a good time. Trapped on a boat with a bunch of strangers.
Oh God. I know.
If you don't want to go on your cruise, you can send me in your place. How about that?
And like just like all the times I've heard about cruises, it didn't really end up too well,
That's right. Send me. I'll catch the corona.
You'll catch corona. You'll hit an iceberg, and you'll go into then Leonardo DiCaprio, and we'll be in a movie about you like 100 years later.
I saw a really great meme the other day that was talking about the Titanic, but in today's perspective, and just the whole like culture of blaming others. Like, that iceberg should have moved out of the way, and just all this thing. It was fantastic. So. Again, y'all, just a reminder, you're watching or listening to Ramblings from the Director. We got Marquis Bundy here. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, listen to us on all 6 platforms, on the Anchor app. We're talking about theater stuff, yo. I think let's transition into, so Marquis, you are not just a Lincoln theater person. You have other places that you do things, correct?
I do. So this year was a really, really eventful year in terms of theater, because I basically had 4 shows lined up back to back to back to back, and they alternated at this community theater place, and then Lincoln, and then community theater, and then Lincoln. The 4th show ended up not happening, but I started this school year. We were doing Clue, right? And I don't even remember. I remember exactly. Okay, so we were doing Clue. I remember in the summer we were like reading scripts, and I remember when you, Mr. Williams, said let's read Clue. I was like, oh my god, that's so interesting. I love mysteries. I love comedies. So this is like a perfect like script, you know. And so I was super excited when we chose Clue, and I remember auditioning. Wait, I think I for some reason didn't go to the auditions, but I went to the like callbacks or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe I did. I don't remember. But anyway, so I was at the callback, and I remember reading for like Wadsworth and Plum. I read for Plum. I remember that. So then, like, sometime during that same week, I got an email. I was in my AP Lang class. I got an email from the assistant director of a show that they're doing at this community theater place, and she was like, "Hey, basically, long story short, she's like, I want you to be part of the show." And I was like, "Oh, word." So I immediately sent the email first to my like theater friend group chat. One of which one person in the group chat was already in the show, so that was super exciting. But then I sent it to Mr. Williams, and I was like, "What do I do? What do I do?" Because like I want to be a part of Clue, but also this is like a good opportunity, you know. And he was like, "Just, you know, do what you want to do, I guess." And I'm like, "That does not help me, but okay." And so,
would you have listened to me anyway if I had said do this? Would you have listened to me? Probably not. You've been like, I'm gonna do the opposite.
I
don't know. It depends on what you said. So,
hey, Marquis, I'm super proud that you got that opportunity at the Playhouse. And I know you didn't like me when I first came in, but I don't blame you. No one liked me when I first came in. But I don't blame you. But like, I'm gonna be completely honest. When I was told that you were going to do this undisclosed show instead of Clue, it broke my heart because I really wanted you. I thought you were really good, and there was one character in particular I really wanted you. I really wanted you for this one particular character.
Finn, who did you want him as? I'll start who I put him as.
Should we do that, or will it make the actual people feel bad?
I don't know that other people are watching, and B, we don't have to say names.
I won't say names, but I had 3 characters I wanted Marquis to play because that's how Williams had me do it. He's like, give your top pick for this person and then 2 alternates. My number 1 pick for Marquis was Wadsworth. I really wanted him to be Wadsworth because when I saw him in the callback, he just kind of had the power on stage. Like, he just took over the situation, and like that kind of bleeds into the script I wrote for this year. If we end up doing it, I want Marquis for this particular character because of his Wadsworth audition. Because I can tell that he can take the power. I can see that he can take control of the stage, and he can get, all eyes on me, kind of. But, I wanted him as Wadsworth. I really wanted him as Plum, because I also thought you did Plum really well, and I also wanted you to do Green, because I feel like you could convey someone who didn't know what was going on, but like had a big secret that you could keep. I feel like you could give that across on stage without saying you're like, oh, I have a secret. You could give off that you knew more than you were showing that you knew.
Yeah.
So those,
Yeah.
I wanted you Wadsworth, Plum, Green. Those were my top three for Marquis.
See-
Talented and could play anything. Oh my god.
For me, it was very specific. I knew exactly where I wanted you.
Really?
I did.
The maid, Yvette. You wanted him as Yvette.
That's incorrect.
You would have looked great in the dress, Marquis.
I wanted you as Plum off of Lila's Scarlet. I thought that would have been fantastic.
Oh my
That would have been really
God,
good.
yeah.
That would have been really good.
I mean,
Would
just
have been
the,
very
like-
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where you would have been. But you have this great opportunity, and I told you then, and I will tell you again. Like, I'm not gonna besmirch you that or prevent you from that opportunity. Like, that's a really great one, and one I'm glad you took. So
It was.
Oh,
Thank you. I
and-
appreciate it. I'll just said. It was difficult because that day that I got the email, it was like, send me like a list of your conflicts and we'll see if we can make it work. And all the conflicts that, like, I didn't have very many conflicts. I had one like really big one, and it was I had a marching band competition, 2 competitions in the same day as a 2-show day. So I was like, this is conflict. I don't know if like it's gonna be a big like deal, but here it is. And so, and she didn't respond to me for 4 days. And so at this point, I was like, you know what, Mr. Williams, you can go ahead and cast me in Clue if you want me in Clue. I don't think I'm going to be hearing back. I think my conflict was too big of a deal. So then he was like, all right, cool, bet. So then the day that the cast list comes out, I get another email saying your conflicts are going to be okay. We're going to allow you to miss the shows for your marching band competition if you still want to be in the show. And I was like, Mr. Williams.
Oh my gosh.
I
remember this.
And-
I remember this whole thing.
And
I remember this.
I don't- it was,
Sucked.
and I was like, I feel really bad because I just told you that like you can cast me, and now like. No,
and then I had to reshuffle the
no.
entire cast because of it.
I know.
Yeah.
I do.
No, I know. I'm
So much
sorry.
Yeah, Williams, I don't know.
bad. I feel really
Williams, I don't know if you remembered this, but like after the cast list came out, because I knew the cast list we had originally with Marquis in it, but then I was not informed that Marquis could no longer do the show.
Oops.
And then I go and I look at the cast list, and I'm like, I look at the cast list, and while I agree with all the picks, but like, I was like, hold on, wait a minute, this is not what we discussed. And then I asked Williams to explain the situation. And not to cut you off, Marquis, but also for Caitlin, I did not have 3 characters for Caitlin. Which you can either take as a really you can either take it as a really good thing or a really bad thing. But I only had 1 character for Caitlin because I only wanted you to play Peacock.
Really?
I
Oh my
only
gosh.
wanted you to play Peacock. Like
He
that,
lies. He
No,
was
I
like,
didn't
don't
lie.
cast her. She sucks.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I was like, no. she's
I
good.
know
I
said specifically, don't cast
guys.
her.
Stop it.
but
Yeah.
no, in all seriousness, I only wanted you as Peacock. And I think if Williams can find the email I sent to him, I think I like said that for like you and like one other person that I wanted in that in a particular role. I was like everyone else they could do these, but I'm like, no, this person, like Caitlin is Peacock. And if you don't
I'm a
you know,
cookie weirdo.
it was
I
like
love
my
that.
it was like my 3rd, 4th day as AD. I was the new guy. But, you know, I'm cocky, so I was like, Williams, if you don't cast Caitlin as Miss Peacock, you are making a huge mistake. And we will have a
Oh my
problem.
God, that's funny.
I really wanted you as Peacock because you looked the part and you acted the part well.
That's
Anywho.
funny. Thank you. Wow.
Anywho.
I was going for Peacock too. That's really funny. I'm glad that it registered and like passed through in my audition.
Anyway, I think we're gonna end this video cast on that note. Remember to stick around if you're listening to the audio only version. We got our big sister segment coming up, but that is exclusive to our audio podcast, which you can find on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and or Spotify. Go listen to it. It's pretty fun. We had some different effects too. This has been Ramblings from a Director with special guest Marquis. Marquis, any final words? Great. Thank you, Marquis.
Cool, great.
Good job.
Time to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Crushed it.
Thank you for coming on, Marquis. Thank you for coming on.
No, seriously, Marquis, do you have anything you want to end with?
Have fun.
Where?
Stay safe.
Where can they find you on social? How about that? Where can they find you on social media?
Instagram at Marquis Bundy _. You can also follow my singing account at Marquis Melodies. Yeah, that's about it.
We'll get those linked in the description, or get them linked somehow. So, any final thoughts, Caitlin or Finn?
Wait, do I stay for this?
Yes. If you want to, stay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be talking about validatable.
We're going to talk about you.
Okay, so I'll stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for coming on, Marquis. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All right. This has been Ramblings from the Director. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. We want to have a bunch of people watch this.
Heck yeah, we do. Bye.
Bye, guys.